Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow. It is the new year. It is January 1st, 2025. We've got a very exciting year ahead of us for a multitude of reasons on a global level. Are we going to have a good year finally? The last 4 years have been so dismal, and I feel like the entire world has just been suppressed, oppressed, and censored and canceled and shut down and told to shut up and don't worry about it. And it's just been absolute craziness, and I'm really hoping that we have a light at the end of this dark tunnel. Hopefully 2025 is the beginning of that light. I don't know what to expect, but as far as crypto is concerned, I see things getting very, very bullish in the not so distant future. Are we going to slide into January 20th? Are we going to start seeing some really solid changes in our health and the food and everything else going on in the world? We shall see. I don't know 100% what to expect, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more bullish right now than I have every year over the last several years, to be very, very honest with you. So that being said, there are 3 interviews right off the jump. I don't even care if you stop this video and come back to it later. I want you to watch all 3 of these videos from start to finish. A lot of people always kind of wonder, Crow, what are you always thinking about? What do you always do? What do you resort to? Where do you get your kind of worldview and things of that nature? I am always reading, always listening. Even if I'm working on other projects, I've got multiple monitors, multiple systems that I do different things on. And generally, if I'm working on a project, I've either got some sort of audio book going, or I have an interview that I'm listening to. These 3 interviews you have to absolutely listen to. All 3 of them are on YouTube. I will link down in the description below. You've got to listen to every one of them. I'm telling you right now, you have to listen to them all in full. I don't care if you're working, whatever you're doing, just listen to all 3 of these interviews. You will learn more in these 3 interviews than I promise you probably learned in anything you've done since 2020, okay? The first one is Matthew Cox, exposing the government's secret crypto scam, rigged from the start. This interview was so eye-opening. Now, obviously, I will tell you, this guy's an XRP bull, but he explains a lot of the reasonings why on a real level. You have to listen. You have to watch it, listen to it. The second interview, which to me is one of the most mind-blowing interviews I've ever seen, is with Joe Rogan and Mike Benz. I'm telling you, another mind-blowing interview. I finished this interview. I actually listened to it like 1.5 times because I'm like, really? I had to go back and listen to it all again. This guy is so eloquent and so informed and so just listen to it. That's all I can say. And then third on this list is Joe Rogan with Rogan Andreeson. You've got to listen to this interview. Now, why is this guy important? Well, he's important because he's basically like an angel investor, a VC guy who knows what's going on in the world of finance. And I'm pretty sure he's like an early investor in a lot of the major crypto projects that we know today. One of which I'm not too fond of, but it is what it is. But this guy is smart. He knows the know, and he is definitely worth listening to. So those 3 videos, I've already given 5 minutes to just telling you, go watch those 3 interviews today, this week, finish them. Okay. I'm telling you. Now, we're going to talk about Cardano. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I am the Crypto Crow, and I Trust Capital is a sponsor of my channel, and I'm actually very, very grateful. They're a company that I've been watching for quite some time now, for several years, grow in the space. And if you're holding cryptocurrency assets for the long term, for retirement, this is definitely something you're going to want to look into. There are a lot of tax benefits associated with I Trust Capital's Roth IRA and other accounts, and you're going to want to need to check those out. You can look at the tax advantages right here in this little link. There's a description below. The question you're probably asking yourself is, well, why would I need that? This new administration coming in is pro-crypto, and they're talking about getting rid of capital gains tax, or at the very least, getting rid of capital gains tax on US-based cryptocurrency projects. But what if you invest in projects that aren't in that list? What if none of those changes happen at all? So we can't really count on that. And I've been looking for alternatives to things like moving to Puerto Rico, which we know that didn't work out well for me, and just doing things that can help me alleviate some of the tax pressure on the assets that I accumulate and the way that I trade and the way that I live my life. I encourage you to check out I Trust Capital. I've had many talks with them. I trust them. I do believe that what they're doing is going to help a lot of people benefit in retirement. There are a lot of tax benefits associated with it, and you really should check it out. At the very least, make sure you're aware of what asset tools are available to benefit you when the time is right. I've got my short-term bags, I've got my long-term bags, and I'm putting my long-term bags with I Trust Capital. Okay, so thank you, I Trust Capital, for your sponsorship. I do appreciate it. Now, here's the thing. We are currently looking at Bitcoin's market cap dominance right now. Just kind of, you can see this crazy volatility in this, and it almost looks like a radio frequency right now. It's getting a little crazy, but you can see we're settling in right now at around 58% dominance. And I still think that this may very likely go up a little bit more. We'll see what happens. At this point, we've already peaked out at around 62%, roughly 61.5%. We've come all the way down to 55%. And at some point, I see us dropping much, much more over the course of this bull market. But here's the thing. I don't necessarily think we're going to get all the way down to a negative 45% from the local peak of this. And I believe that because of these ETFs. And I don't see it. I don't see us dropping as much this time around. Over time, every cycle, we see the volatility of the crypto market, especially with Bitcoin, closing. So we're not going to get these ginormous swings that we're used to seeing. And so many of us are watching the crypto market, the charts, other influencers, educators, whatever you want to call us. And we're expecting the prices, and we're expecting what we've seen in previous cycles. And I don't think that's going to be the case this time around. I do think it's going to be different. And there's a lot I want to cover in this video. You can see here, I did this one video where I was looking at the price action, and I was looking to basically set up a timeline, kind of a guide of how I thought we could potentially drop in Bitcoin's price to come all the way down to around $77,000 to fill this CME futures gap. And I don't want to keep referencing it, but I want to either break above it and put it behind us, or I want to fill it and then move on. Now, I think personally, a lot's going to happen between now and the new administration being sworn in on January 20th. And we've got some time, okay? Sadly, we have a wait. This is going to happen around this time frame. I do believe that we are going to come down, and I think we're going to continue moving down. We might get a little bit of a pump. Maybe the price comes back up here and then, gets rejected, and then we make a further low. I really think that's going to happen. Okay. We basically got almost 3 weeks of price action to fill this CME futures gap, establish that low, and then springboard to the top. Now, I haven't looked at any of this price action on any of my major structures yet. But at some point I probably will. If we're looking at this was basically my prediction for, if we fill the CME futures gap and the basically how low we could potentially go. And then I started looking at this chart, and I'm thinking to myself, have we ever went this high into the red in the crypto market and then came back for a significant pullback, breaking back down out of it? No, we haven't. And I find that very, very odd, because if we look back, even when we got our initial peak of the 2021 cycle in April, we did pull out of that. Okay. But it took a while. We broke into it. We got our peak. Then it came down. We came out of the red area and then went back up for another peak. I don't see that happening this time. I feel like that volatility, I think it's changing. If we go back further than that, in the 2017 peak, well, that was just a mountain. I mean, we started all the way back in August of 2016 and pretty much went up. We had some major corrections as high as 40% in that bull run, but that was extremely volatile. I mean, that was just through the roof. Okay. And I think you can, if you look at it, the grand scheme of things, you can see the volatility of that being broken up. And I do believe this is institutional plays breaking up things. I still believe it's possible that we hit somewhere around $185,000 by the peak of the cycle, but the question is when. And we're going to find out. Now, if we're looking at the price action of where we're at currently, you can see we're in this kind of an Elliott wave situation here where we're basically trying to conclude this and come down to conclude the C wave. We've got the fair value gap sitting between 85,000 and down to around 80, let's call it 81.5. Now, you can see below this is the CME futures gap. And if you look at what a lot of other analysts are talking about, a lot of the other analysts are saying, oh, we could come down to, maybe the bottom of this around 81,000 on the low end. But I see us wicking down here, folks. I mean, maybe this all happens on the same day. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it happens over a weekend or like a bearish period where we come down here, we get some negative news about something happens. Something is going to trigger, I believe. And you can meme this, mark this, whatever, but I think something is going to happen once we get closer to around the low 80s. That's going to make us wick down to fill this CME futures gap. It's just a prediction. It could be wrong. But we have all this time to fill between the inauguration, which I think is going to be extremely bullish for the crypto space. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be bullish for the world. I mean, I really do. A lot of people don't want to admit that. I know a lot of people are, in the clouds about things, but if you look at the numbers don't lie. And a lot of things have been changing already. A lot of stuff has been happening that's been getting much more promising. And I'm hoping that it all reigns true, and I'm hoping it all continues into the year. Now, what does this have to do with Cardano? Well, if we look at Cardano, you can see we are in basically a bull flag, and we want to break out of this bull flag, but I don't think that's going to happen. We'll see what happens this week. Maybe we wick above, maybe we don't, but I see us getting rejected off of this, coming down into new lows, new local lows in Cardano. I know it's not what everybody wants to hear, but this is actually a good thing for a lot of reasons. And I can see us breaking down around the 75-cent level. Now, we've already come down there, and I did predict this. I didn't predict it on YouTube. I predicted it in like a local group that I have with a bunch of friends. And I told them to expect this, and sure enough, it happened. I know one of my buddies basically set a buy limit at like 76 cents, and I can't remember if he said he got it filled or not. I need to ask. But anyway, he might very well get another chance, because if this plays out with Bitcoin, then these new lows, these local lows are probably going to happen with Cardano. The difference, though, is that there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening. And I really believe that this what's happening right now is going to effectively become the last major shakeout of weak hands. People selling. Now, what is happening, though? For everyone that gets shaken out, well, what happens? Well, there are a lot of reports, especially in Cardano. I think it was like 160 million Cardano was gobbled up during this dip by whales. This is why these corrections happen. You've got the market makers that are playing the markets. They cause a lot of the weak hands to get shaken out because they think they're losing money. They think they don't understand the markets. They're trading these cycles, whether they're using bot trades or they're getting out of these positions in bulk at times where there's a pullback. But what's happening is these market makers, the institutions, the whale traders, the big guys that understand the systems or are playing a system, they're accumulating what the weaker hands are selling, and they're doing it. So let's just say hypothetically, if the price gets up to 90 cents, right? If I enter a position at 75 cents, the price gets up to about 90 cents. Well, depending on my system and what's happening, I might start dumping, because what happens is I'm selling at 90, I start reaccumulating at 75 cents. As I'm selling, my ratios are going up. I'm accumulating more for the same money over a small period of time than if I were just to buy and hold, or if I were to just to dump it and wait and wait and wait and wait. Because while I'm waiting for a new entry, everyone else around me is already getting back in at lower price points, even if they're averaging in over time. So a lot of the whales are playing these systems brilliantly. That's why we see, Cardano's price is going lower, but whales are accumulating. That's why, because they see the resistance, they see the support levels, they know where the price is going to bounce in between. So if they're selling it at this top and then they're accumulating, in the middle of that, they're averaging back into their major positions, accumulating more. This is what causes that accumulation to end up in the hands of fewer people, but effectively helps control the price to get much higher the next time around. That's why and it's same thing with Bitcoin, same thing with a lot of these assets. That is how a lot of these traders trade, and this is how a lot of traders accumulate in a bull market. The phrase buy the dip, that's what they do. They're buying the dip. The weak hands get out of their positions. Listen, folks, Cardano is so oversold still. This is still just the beginning of what's coming. And so and the whales know this, the people in the know this, but a lot of you guys out there that are watching YouTube videos from people and you're seeing what's going on, you don't understand the grander game. A lot of people don't. I just saw something else from another influencer who's got a lot of followers, just talking mad trash, like spreading complete nonsense about Cardano, because it knowingly competes with his biggest holding. And these kinds of people who are either rooted in greed, they're being paid, whatever the case may be, they are leading people astray. And, there's one thing to be passionate about something, and then there's another thing to be passionate about what you hold, but then trying to spread lies, misinformation, or whatnot about a competing project for no other reason than it potentially could damage your monetary gains. Okay? Let's just say that. I have pointed out flaws in other blockchains because of the data, like the data that's being manipulated and lied about, and the systems that are bringing some of these really big influencers in the space, paying them well for their shilling, and effectively just not doing very good for their public. But that's the problem, is because people that don't know much better get into a position, then they see this other person with a lot of followers saying things bad. You see the price dip, and then they freak out. It's just a disservice to the community. And I really take that personally, because I feel like there's so many people out there that stand to gain and benefit a great deal in 2025 by holding the coins, the projects that have proven themselves over time to be legitimate, to stay up, to not crash, to not go down, to not be just fueled by a lot of manipulated on-chain data and wash trading and all kinds of gobbledygook that's basically meant to project a narrative that gets you confident in their price action, to make you confident that it's a good long-term hold. They want long-term holders that aren't going to sell. So they create these false narratives. This, to me, like what has been happening with Cardano over the last several years, really since inception, is quite honestly what I would attribute to, let's just say, the recent presidential campaigns. You've got all these lies and narratives and all of this stuff being projected about this one individual who challenges the very systems that benefit so many of the small number of people in the world that want to control everything. And so these narratives keep getting pushed out, and they're very well-funded narratives that really program the minds of people that don't know much better. They don't have the time to dive deeper into the reality of what's going on. They just buy everything as a headline and they run with it. And that same system I've seen play out in crypto for years now. And it's damaging. And it's damaging to so many people, but it's always in the favor of a select number of few that are benefiting significantly from those efforts. And it makes me really sick. And everybody that plays into that makes me very sick. So anyway, there is a good chance that we get rejected off of this and come down. And you know what? If that happens, that's okay. But what you're going to see is you're not going to hear about all of the 20 billion other altcoins out there that are doing the same thing because Bitcoin's coming down. And what you're going to see is a lot of paid narratives in the media that are basically going to try and scare you out of your Cardano bags and into the next shitcoin that's being pushed by whoever it is, right? Cardano's dropping for whatever reason, but not against this big 100x potential new meme shitcoin pet rock on this shit blockchain. You're going to see it all over. Don't be fooled. So it is what it is. Now, with that in mind, I do believe we're going to be very, very bullish in the very near future. If we look at the liquidation heat maps, this is on a 1 week heat map. Hold on, let me bring it up so you can see it here. You can see that we're not even in the yellow down here. So that tells me that it's not as attractive for the market makers to try and push the price action to the downside. There needs to be more buildup here for us to really move the price much lower. And you can see, I mean, down here we've got $64 million. So you got $64 million here at 91.5 thousand compared to like $80 million up at 96.5 thousand. And then you go up even higher to 97.5 thousand. It's another $1,000. You got another $80 million in liquidity sitting there. So where do we go first? Do we go up or do we go down? Well, it's likely we could go up, squash some of this with a nice little friendly wick to the face of those people before we start moving down to the downside. How much of this plays out before inauguration is the question. And in what direction do we ultimately end up as we head into the 20th? We'll just have to see, because I really don't know. There's a lot of prediction and things going around right now. Analyst says up only action price on the horizon for Bitcoin and altcoins, predicts new leg up for Cardano. A lot of this is basically saying what I just said. You're probably going to get a bit of a lower dip. We may fill that CME futures gap. We may not. If we do, great. If we don't, that's fine too. It doesn't have to happen. But considering I first pointed this out a while back when the price was much higher and everybody said there's no way in hell, I was crazy. And here we are slowly moving down. These are opportunities for the whales to collect from you. When you sell because you're afraid the price is going to go lower, and then we start seeing all these narratives being spilled out by all of the whales and all of the big money pushing you to try and sell because the peak may be in, the market may be over, and it makes everybody question themselves. And you know, and that's what happens. And then they buy it up because they know that we're in a position of the market cycle where it's likely going to go much, much higher than where it's at right now in this dip. So they buy from you, and that's it. And it's one of the reasons why I have my little private group, because I'm just like, I'm not selling. When I do, I'll let my friends know, and that's it. And I'll do a video. I'm not going to do what I did last year. You know, the first thing I'm going to do when I start to exit my positions is I'm going to post on my Substack, and I'm going to let people know what I'm doing before YouTube, because the people on there are generally people that want to know. Last cycle, I was afraid to announce when I started selling initially, because if I was wrong, you know, then I've got people selling, and like I was just so worried about that. But I turned out to be dead ass right, not only on the first peak, but the second peak. And I predicted it all on the same afternoon. And I'm like, I feel like, you know, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I never want to lead anybody wrong. I really don't. I can't tell you how seriously I take this, because I know, and I talk to my wife all the time about it, I know that I have such a big responsibility to the people that watch me and that really pay attention to this channel. And I have a really big responsibility to try, and I really just want to help everybody. I since 2017, I've never really wanted to do anything other than help people understand the markets, understand the space at a time when it was so new. And I feel like I've tried to do everything I can to effectively be that kind of guiding light in a lot of ways. I call it as I see it. You know, I feel like I've been very transparent. I try to do everything the right way. But you know, it's a scary market, and you just never know what can happen. So I've always been afraid of making those really huge things known, like, hey, I just started selling at this price point because I think this is it. I think we're going to go down from here, and then everybody dumping, and then, you know, the next week I find out I'm wrong and we're up to 120%. And I'm just always afraid of doing that to people. So, but you know what? The people that want to know, they're going to be on my Substack, and, you know, you do what you will with that information. I'm always right sometimes. It's the best I can say. Cardano's got major plans for 2025. And, that's what a lot of this article is about. Charles talking about how he's really going to be focusing a lot on the integration of Bitcoin finance. And this is huge, man. And there's obviously this back and forth between, Charles, other people, and Rick, and, Cardano, Rick. And it's like, you know what? Enough is enough. Honestly, it's enough. I don't feel that we need to try and I think these are conversations that can be had in private. Let's be real. Unless we're like engagement surfing and we're just really trying to use this to garner more attention for ourselves. And I'm not saying that on the part of anybody in particular. I just think that these kinds of discussions, we can label them and say, oh, well, I want to be transparent and I just want everybody to understand my stance and things. And it's just like, I feel like Charles having to defend his stance on what's going on with Cardano Foundation. I believe he knows a hell of a lot more about what's going on behind the scenes with Cardano Foundation than any one of us. Okay. And I know that our egos would like to drive us into positions of thinking that, we have some insight or that we know and our opinions may very well be valid. But I think even if that were the case, those opinions are better off explored in private conversations, not airing our whatever it is we're trying to accomplish on a public forum like X. Okay, that's just my personal opinion, and I don't have any bones to pick with anybody. I just see this back and forth, and it's not good for the ecosystem personally. And I don't think anybody's gaining from these back and forth discussions on X either. I think it's creating a lot of sentiment one way or the other, and it's creating division. And if that's the goal of the individuals that I'm seeing posting on X about these things, is to create this division for some reason, well, kudos, you're doing a great job, and I guess keep doing what you're doing. But if you really care about the ecosystem overall, and you have a genuine passion for seeing Cardano succeed, there are other ways of going about being transparent and maybe doing public forum discussions. Hell, I welcome you both. I welcome anybody. You can come on the channel. I'll moderate. You guys can have an open debate back and forth. That is much better than these text talks back and forth amongst each other, basically trying to soapbox for the public. Let's have a discussion about it. I'll keep my mouth shut. I'll let you guys talk about it. But I feel like that's a much more constructive way of sharing ideas and opinions than going back and forth in text that can be misconstrued. My wife and I all the time, we'll get to texting about stuff and we're like, you know what? Let's just talk about this in person because what I'm saying is being missed in translation through these words in text format. There's no energy there. There's no sentiment there where it's hard to understand what we're trying to say sometimes. And I think that could very well be happening here too. So I just wanted to put that out there. There's another way of doing it. On another note, Apex Fusion is apparently getting ready to start launching its mainnet. I'm working on getting some information on this soon, but it's been pointed out to me by my testnet dev, Dave, who handles my Cardano node for me now. He's been doing a phenomenal job. He's actually helping me. We're actually working right now on turning the Crow Tokens Twitter account into an educational format that's going to start engaging with people. It's an AI bot. We're running it on a RAG system that pulls from over 200 full-size trading books dating back to the 80s. So every trading method, trading pattern, trading system, you name it, it's all basically going to be fueling the Crow Tokens Twitter bot. And it's just kind of a fun project. It's something I wanted to do, and I want to continue growing it. That way it will engage people and trying to educate people on Twitter, and effectively promoting Crow tokens, but not promoting Crow tokens. I want to do something different. And so, yeah, and Dave is helping me set that up. We've been working on it for days. It's a lot more complicated than some of the YouTube guides out there lead you to believe. There's a lot to it. But anyway, I just want to let everybody know that that's coming. Apex Fusion is coming as well. And let's see here. That's basically it. But it's a new year. The sentiment is strong, and I'm very excited about it. Until next time, crow your coins, and I'll see you soon.